For the time being, it's a little calm here in the Middle East. It's especially been the case since late Friday when the United States had halted attacks all of a sudden against Iran after 13 consecutive nights of attacking cities within Iran. And so what we saw then was a sense of calmness. No explanation was given by President Trump or the United States. Some reports were floating around about the United States running out of ammunition. President Trump came out, refuted that, said that actually the U.S. has more than enough ammunition, but that he would like to have more. So for now, we're seeing a little bit of a pause in hostilities, especially with Iran saying that it will suspend those attacks against shipping in the Strait of Hormuz and countries in the region, including, as you have mentioned, Kuwait, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and the others across the GCC.
What does the United Arab Emirates want here when you look at the royal family? Al Nahyan of Abu Dhabi and, of course, the separate family of Dubai. What do the royal families want from President Trump?
Look, that's a really good question, right? It's not just the UAE that I want to focus on. It's royal families across the GCC. And really what's at heart here, the key part in all of this is that these are very oil-rich countries, right? So for the majority of my career at Bloomberg, I've covered economics. And these countries, despite diversifying away from oil over the past decade or so, are still very reliant on oil. So when you have the Strait of Hormuz, of which a fifth of the world's energy goes through, when you see that come to a standstill, similarly to what we're seeing right now, because over the past 2 weeks or so, Tom, we've seen movement pretty much paralyzed there. And so these countries are really trying to double down with both Iran and the United States, keeping those diplomatic channels open to try to get those flows going again. And let's just not forget that over the past week or so, the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb Strait, of which Saudi Arabia has been resorting to throughout the course of this war to try to get its energy exports out, is also now being struck by the Houthis in Yemen. So this is a parallel war that is happening. So you've got two major waterways at risk. And so those countries are really trying to keep those channels open to mediate, to get this to be resolved and get the movement in the region to happen yet again.
Abeer, is there a sense in your part of the world that the Strait of Hormuz, let's just focus on that for the moment, the Strait of Hormuz will never be a free passageway
That's the money question. Thank you.
That's a really good question, right? Because there is this notion of the new paradigm, the new norm. And this was especially the case a couple of weeks ago or so, especially after that MOU was signed in Switzerland, when Iran said that it will start charging fees to ships and tankers that are making their way through the Strait of Hormuz, regardless of what the U.S. thinks, regardless of what Oman thinks. And so we reported a couple of weeks ago, again, that while countries in the region do not want to see that, they've kind of succumbed to the reality that this could very much be the case going forward. And not just the GCC, also the EU, right? They have had private conversations suggesting that this is not an ideal scenario, but this could very much be the new paradigm of how things are done. Iran is quite adamant on that.
But this is the heart of the matter. Paul's wonderful question here. If there's a forever change in the Gulf of Hormuz, who's going to police that?
That's a good question. Iran is the name of the game here. Iran says that it wants to maintain control over the Strait of Hormuz. And really, since the start of this war, Tom, you've seen Iran kind of wake up to this reality of how much control it can assert over the Strait of Hormuz, really. And this is what we've reported yesterday as well, is that Iran and Oman have had discussions over the weekend trying to restart movement through the Strait of Hormuz, especially the middle passageway.
I understand that, but what does Dubai want? What does Abu Dhabi want? What does Qatar want, etc., if they're going to give up the strait, which I don't believe, to Iran? I mean, that's the heart of the debate, isn't it?
It is. And look, for the time being, we don't have a lot of clarity on what conversations those countries are having. For the time being, what we understand is that countries in the region, namely Oman and Qatar, have been the main mediators between Iran and the United States, just getting those diplomatic channels to remain open, really, and to get the movement, not just when it comes to energy. Look, I mean, these countries are also very heavily reliant on FDI, on finance coming to the region. Dubai and Abu Dhabi are quite quite famous for attracting all these big funds around the world and big banks. And this is a message that we've been getting from people on Wall Street, from people in Europe, coming to the region, trying to say that we're still here. They're sending a message. And so those countries are really trying to keep business open. That is the main goal for a lot of the countries in the GCC.